Today we're taking a closer look at the Brooks Glycerin 19 after 500 miles. Hello and welcome back to The Vegan Runner. I've been running in the Brooks Glycerin 19 for the best part of a year, and after 500 miles, this is my full review. Before we get going, you'll be absolutely shocked to learn that I'm still not a sponsored athlete. So I bought these shoes from Brooks with my own money, so my opinions and thoughts are my own, and nobody's paying me to make this review. Now, I last reviewed this shoe pretty early on in its life at around 50 miles, and generally the review was pretty positive at that stage. I really enjoyed the DNA loft foam in the midsole. Out of the box they were super soft and squishy, and for once they lived up to all the marketing hype, and they delivered premium comfort mile after mile. The upper was also super plush with plenty of padding, and on the tongue and on the heel cup as well. I was just really surprised with how versatile I found such a overbuilt, very well cushioned shoe. They were most comfortable on long runs and recovery runs, but could handle a bit of speed work thrown at them too. My only real bugbears with the shoe at that time was that the heel cup was pretty unforgiving on tight bends and would sometimes stick into your ankle. And with so much foam and so much padding, the shoe was a bit on the hefty side for what I would normally go for. But I have managed to take this shoe past 500 miles, plenty of long runs up Devonshire hills, and the question is, has the Glycerin 19 continued to perform really well over the course of its life, and how has it changed since my last review over 450 miles ago? So starting off then, I think what most people want to know is how well these shoes have held together. Most marketing around shoes these days says we should be looking for new shoes after about 300 miles. Most shoes, I think it's quite reasonable to expect them to go to 400 miles, and then some exceptional shoes can go twice as long as that and be clocking up 600, 700, 800 miles. Now, looking at the Glycerin 19 now, they don't really look like a shoe that has been through 500 miles of Devonshire grit, all of the seasons, some absolutely huge lake-sized puddles, and pretty much everything that I could throw at it in terms of the types of running I was doing in them. The upper is absolutely bomb-proof. I can't really see any visible wear at all. Even the graphics on the side, the plastic decals, which typically peel off after a couple of hundred miles, you can see some really noticeable wear in them. They almost look brand new. A little bit of cracking, but they're all still intact. In fact, this one on the side here of the left-hand shoe is pretty much completely intact. They look the same as the day I got them out of the box. And the same could be said for the tongue. The only real noticeable wear to the upper is the laces. They're fraying in patches. I think they're still plenty strong. So I'm really impressed with the longevity and build quality of the upper. Most shoes by this stage in their life show quite a lot of wear and tear, sometimes even holes in the upper near the big toes. I don't tend to get that very often, but you can kind of see the weaker parts of the shoe in the upper. But with the Brooks, I haven't been precious with these either. They're just holding up really, really well. So in terms of its durability, very, very good on the upper. And over the course of the last 500 miles, the upper has remained really comfortable too. It's plush, it's breathable, and I'm glad to say that the heel collar issues that I mentioned in my initial review disappeared at around about the 100-mile mark. It seemed to soften up a fair bit. It just kind of mellowed out, and those tight corners and things, and where I'd notice it kind of digging in as you go around a tight corner, that kind of disappeared too. So I don't know whether my running style slightly changed, but what I suspect is the shoe just softened up a little bit and it's just a bit more forgiving on those tight corners. For a really plush, comfortable shoe, the upper drains really well. They're already a mid-weighted shoe, and they're certainly not light, so when you are completely drenched, you do notice a pretty hefty kind of weight increase, just because I think there's a lot of material here, and it does absorb the water quite a lot, so you can notice that weight underneath your feet. But they drain really quickly. After about a quarter of a mile, maybe half a mile or so, they've drained out a fair amount, and they're kind of back to normal. Now, the underside of the shoe, the outsole, is where I'm seeing the most amount of wear. As you'd expect, there's some smooth patches on the underside of the shoe, most noticeably to the green rubber near the heel. The blue rubber though is remarkably untouched. There's just a couple of smooth patches, but still plenty of bumps and ridges, providing plenty of grip. Even some of the finer detailing, I'll try and get a close-up picture of it, but even some of that is still in there. You know, the very small, tiny details that you see when you get the shoes out of the box, but that's still there. And even the exposed foam here as well isn't starting to crumble and fall apart. It still looks in pretty decent condition. I think that's pretty remarkable in some Hokas and things that I've worn where there's a lot of exposed foam. Think of like the Nike Next Percents as well. The foam, even just after 100 miles, you can notice that it's breaking apart, and you know, if you've gone over some gravel or something like that, it can really tear up that exposed foam. I've noticed it in those two brands, in Hokas and the Nike Next Percent shoes. With these though, it's still intact. You can still see quite a lot of the detail on the foam, the grip there. I think that's pretty remarkable. Another component of the shoe that is standing up to the test of time. Now that longevity and durability in the grip would mean nothing if the grip itself was terrible, but actually it's been holding up really well. I think I've only slipped a couple of times in this shoe, and that was in kind of like icy, very slick conditions, which pretty much every shoe would struggle with, so I'm not really worried about that. When I first bought the shoe, there was a little bit of squeakiness, and the grip was kind of loud underfoot, but again, that kind of disappeared pretty early on. I think I mentioned in my initial review, about 20 miles or so, that just kind of disappeared, thankfully, and that hasn't come back. Hasn't been any issues with being loud. Just a very comfortable, durable, quiet shoe. Good job on the outsole, Brooks. Now then, onto the midsole, which is the part of the shoe that I think has changed the most since my review 450 miles ago. As I said, stepping into the shoes and the first 50 miles or so, the cushioning was like nothing else. Very plush, squishy and soft, and it all came together just to make a very comfortable ride on those long runs. Slowly, after a lot of repeated pounding, the midsole has lost a lot of that early extreme comfort, and it's just gently mellowed and kind of firmed up. I first noticed it after about 200 miles, and then again at around about 400 miles, it started to feel like a much flatter, kind of firmer shoe, not quite as squishy. I still do notice the kind of plushness and squishiness if I switch between what I'm wearing mostly at the moment is the Adidas Ultra Boost 22. So if I put these on after a run in the Ultra Boost, these feel a lot softer and a lot plusher still. But to run in, they've definitely firmed up, which is to be expected after so much pounding. So yeah, they are a bit firmer now, a little less bouncy, a bit more kind of flat feeling underfoot, but most importantly, they're still comfortable to run in, albeit a very different shoe from the one that I bought 500 miles ago. For me, a good indication of when I need to change my shoes is if my knees are a little sore the next day after a run. If I put a few hundred miles in a shoe and I have sore knees the next day, I can be pretty sure that a change of shoes is on the cards. For most shoes, that's often around that kind of 300 mile mark for me. Sometimes I get a little bit more, sometimes even get a little bit less. I think the On Cloud was like around about the 200-250 mile mark. Now that for me in these shoes started at around about the 450 mile mark, so that's pretty decent. And not that long ago, a couple of weekends ago, I took them out for a 17 miler, and the next morning no problems whatsoever. Again, just a very reliable, dependable and comfortable shoe. So I'm going to gently retire these shoes now. I still think they've got a bit of life in them, so I'll still run in them for recovery runs and zone 2 runs, maybe the odd long run. If I didn't have the Adidas Ultra Boost to take their place, I'd be happily taking them on for probably another 100, maybe 200 miles. They really are built like a tank and offer great value for money. They still retail at £140 on the Brooks website, making them run at about 28 pence per mile. That's not too bad at all, and if you can take them to 700 miles, you're going to be getting something like 20 pence to the mile. And I'd say that's pretty decent value for a high quality and reliable shoe you can put a lot of your training on. Now then, the Glycerin 20 will be coming out sometime in March, so hopefully within the next few weeks. I've enjoyed this shoe so much, I'm definitely going to be picking up a pair of those, and I really hope Brooks haven't made too many major changes to the new shoe, as I think they've got something pretty special here. Now, if you're looking to pick up a pair of Glycerin 19s, I suspect that £140 price tag is about to drop as the shops get ready to make room and stock the new models. So look out for a deal on these. If you can pick them up for about 85 quid or so, which is what the Glycerin 18, the previous model, is priced at now, you'd be getting an absolute bargain. If you regularly watch and view this channel, thank you very much. We're closing in on that 1,000 subscriber milestone, which will just be amazing. Never thought we'd get this far. So thank you to all the subscribers out there. And if you haven't already, check out the community post that I put up earlier in the week asking you to vote on which parkrun I should go to next. We've just got 4 left to run and film in Devon. I'm saving one of them as a special one for the end, as I think it would make a good place to kind of end the Devon parkrun journey. So there's 3 to vote for: Exeter, Plym Valley and Torbay Velo Park, and I think it's neck and neck at the moment between Torbay Velo Park and Plym Valley. So have a little look at those parkruns, have a vote on the community page on my channel. I'd love your input on that one, and yeah, that parkrun video will be out a week today. Right, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, then please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost anything, it's free, and you'll be notified every time I put up a video. Happy running, and until the next one, be the best you.